The skin still smells burned. The iron is gone. But the heat is not. Serena is 20-6. She is kneeling on cold stone. Her forehead throbs like it has its own heartbeat. She can taste metal in her mouth. She can smell smoke on her hair. She can feel the stamped letters swelling under her skin. FUG, one short word. One permanent sentence. Through the ringing in her ears, she still hears them laughing. The men who pinned her down. The men who joked while the iron touched her face. 14 days ago, Serena lived inside a senator's villa. She was a household slave. Not a field worker. Not a mind slave. Not a body thrown away. She could read. She could write. She handled letters and numbers. She kept accounts. She managed small tasks that required trust. Some masters even spoke to her like she was almost a person. Almost. Now she is in a different world. A labor facility near Laurentum. Stone walls. Iron chains. Rules written in pain. She's chained to a post in an open courtyard. Her wrists are locked. Her knees press into damp ground. This post has held hundreds of women before her. Some screamed. Some begged. Some went quiet. Serena is waiting to learn what comes next. She's been told the brand is only the first mark. There will be others, they said. Different marks for different lessons. Around her, more women kneel in rows. Some have fresh burns like Serena. Their faces still wet from tears. Others carry older scars. The kind that is hardened into ugly lines. A few stare forward with empty eyes. Like their minds already left. Like the body is still here only because the system still owns it. One woman beside Serena does not react at all. Not to the shouting. Not to the chains. Not to the smell of burned skin. She looks like a shell. Then a man enters the courtyard. He walks like he owns the air. He is about 40-5. His hair is thinning. His hands are clean. His clothes are better than the guards. He has the calm of someone who has watched suffering for years. And no longer feels anything. Serena learned his name from whispers. Quintus Cu alias Dus. Administrator. Judge. Designer of punishments. He decides who goes to the quarries. Who goes to the mines. Who disappears into jobs no one describes out loud. He stops in front of Serena. He looks at the brand. He smiles like he is admiring good work. The senators run away, he says. His voice is mild. That makes it worse. The one who stayed free for 12 days. He crouches. He tilts her chin up with 2 fingers. Not gentle. Not rough. Just careless. You should have known better, he says. A villa slave. Educated. Comfortable. You had more than most slaves ever get. And you threw it away for 12 days. Serena forces herself to breathe. I had reasons, she says. Dus chuckles. They all have reasons. The reasons do not matter. What matters is this. You ran. You were caught. And now you belong to this place. He stands again. Then he pauses, like a man remembering a small curiosity. Tell me your reasons, he says. His eyes narrow. I want to know what makes a person choose stupidity. Serena swallows. She can feel the brand pulling when she moves her brow. My daughter, she says. She was sold 6 months ago. To a buyer in Ostia. I ran to find her. Dus' face changes slightly. Not sympathy. Something colder. Something calculating. Your daughter, he repeats, like he is tasting the idea. A child born into slavery. Sold away from her mother. He nods. This happens every day. Slaves do not have families. Not in law. Not in any way that matters. Serena's voice shakes. But she holds it steady. I knew that, she says. But she is 8. And the man who bought her. She hesitates. Dus leans in slightly. Go on. Serena chooses her words carefully. People said he wanted children for things I could not accept. Dus laughs. A sharp sound. A happy sound. A sound that does not belong near chains. Accept, he says. Your property. Acceptance is not required. Your daughter is property too. What her owner does is his concern. Not yours. Serena's throat tightens. She is my child, she says. Dus lifts a hand. Like he is correcting a student. She is a slave. He points at Serena's brand. And you were Senator Valerie's slave. The bond you imagine between mother and child does not exist here. It barely exists in practice. He turns to the gods. Mark her for the special assignment, he says. She has spirit. That will make her useful. Serena's stomach drops. Guards step forward. Hands grab her arms. The chain is unlocked from the post. Her body is lifted, dragged, half-minus carried toward the doorway. Stone turns into shadow. Serena fights to keep her voice calm. What special assignment, she asks. The US smiles again. This time the smile is slow, like he enjoys the moment. You will learn soon enough, he says. The women assigned to it last 3 or 4 weeks. The strong ones sometimes reach 6. He looks Serena up and down. You look strong. Maybe you'll set a record. Serena is pulled through the doorway. Before the darkness swallows her, she sees the courtyard again. The US is already walking toward the next woman, ready to deliver another decision. Like this is routine. Like this is accounting. What you are about to hear is not the version of Roman slavery that survives in polite history. Roman writers loved to explain slavery as a system. They talked about laws, property rights, contracts. They discussed manumission, the hope of freedom. They argued in philosophy schools about whether slavery was natural, as if the debate itself was clean. They counted bodies like tools. They did not describe what happened to slaves who ran, because running was the one thing Rome could not allow to seem possible. If slaves believed escape could work, the empire would shake. So the punishment for escape had to do more than hurt one person. It had to teach everyone else. It had to kill hope. That is why the brand exists. FUGA mark burned into the face. A mark that cannot be hidden. A mark that says, this one tried. This one failed. And after the brand comes the next stage. Facilities. Processing centers built for runaways. Places where punishment is organized. Systematic. Repeatable. Some runaways were sent to mines, where life expectancy could be measured in months. Some were sent to brutal labor camps, where the work was meant to end them. Some were sent to places with special assignments. The documents rarely explained those assignments in detail. The system did not like to write those things down. But survivors' whispers tell the truth. Some facilities made money from what happened to runaways at night. Money that polite society pretended did not exist. Runaways were considered damaged goods. No owner expected them back in perfect condition. That meant administrators felt free to treat them as disposable. And disposable people are profitable. The Laurent and Ile Aber facility was one of the worst. Hundreds of runaways passed through every year. Most were sent to quarries or heavy farm labor. But some, the ones with spirit, the ones who ran for reasons that meant they might try again, were given special work. Work designed to break them fast. Work designed to become a story. Because Rome did not just punish escape. Rome advertised the cost of escape. Now go back to Serena. She is dragged into the interior of the facility, down a corridor that smells of old sweat and stone. She's thrown into a cell. Small. They're 8 feet by 6. Stone floor. Stone walls. An iron grate for a door. An iron grate for a window. A thin pallet in one corner. A bucket in the other. An oil lamp mounted outside the bars. It stays lit all night. No true darkness. No privacy. No hiding. And Serena is not alone. Another woman sits in a cell. Older. Mid-30s. Her forehead also bears the FUG mark. And there are other scars too. Old lines on her arms. Signs of time. She looks at Serena and speaks without emotion. New arrival, she says. Special assignment. Serena's mouth is dry. That's what he said. The woman nods slowly. And you have for weeks, she says. Maybe 3. Serena stares at her. Yuri's still here. The woman lets out a small laugh. No humor. I'm at 6, she says. I am apparently exceptional. She shifts her weight. My name used to be Calpurnia. Now I'm just number 40-7. They'll give you a number 2. Serena's heart beats hard. What is the special assignment? She asks. Calpurnia is silent for a moment. Then she answers in a flat voice. Daytime is the quarry. Stone. Dust. Heavy loads. That part is brutal but survivable. Strong women can do quarry work for years. Serena leans forward. And nights? Calpurnia does not look away. The facility makes money, she says. Men pay for access. Men who want things they cannot do in public. Men who prefer victims who cannot complain. Serena feels cold spread through her chest. How often, she asks. Calpurnia exhales. Every night, she says. Sometimes more than once. The administrator maximizes profit. We are considered disposable. And that is what kills most women. Quarry work breaks the body. The nights break what's left. She pauses. Most stop eating by week 2. Most stop sleeping by week 3. By week 4, most stop entirely. Serena sits back. The horror is no longer a rumor. It is scheduled. It begins tonight. She has hours to think, hours to plan, hours to decide how she will survive the first night. Calpurnia watches her carefully. Serena forces her voice steady. You've lasted 6 weeks, she says. How? Calpurnia studies her. Then she asks something Serena doesn't expect. Why do you want to survive? Serena answers immediately. My daughter, she says. She's in Ostia. If I die here, she has no one. Calpurnia's eyes harden. Your daughter is property, she says. What happens to her will happen whether you live or die. Serena shakes her head. If I live, there's a chance. If I get out, I can reach her. There has to be a way. Calpurnia is quiet. Then she speaks. And her voice changes slightly. Not soft, but less empty. There is a God, she says. His name is Marcus. He is not like the others. He brings extra food. He warns me when the worst men are scheduled. He says he is working on a way out. Serena's breath catches. How do I find him? Calpurnia eyes back on her palette. You don't, she says. He finds you. If he decides you're worth helping. Then, like a door closing, her voice goes flat again. Sleep while you can. Tonight will be the worst night of your life. And tomorrow will be worse. Serena lies on the pallet. She stares at the dim light outside the bars. She thinks of her daughter Lucia, 8 years old, sold away. She thinks of the word on her forehead, FUG. She thinks of the night coming. And she thinks of the guard named Marcus. She does not know if he is real. He does not know if help is coming. But she knows one thing. She ran for a reason. And she will not let that reason die in this place. Not yet. The gods come for her after the evening meal. The meal is thin soup. A piece of bread. Enough to keep a body working. Not enough to comfort it. Serena forces herself to eat every bite. Her stomach twists in protest. Her hands shake. But she eats. Calpurnia watches her closely. Good, she says. Most women don't. The corridor is narrow and warm. Oil lamps line the walls. Serena's led past other cells. She hears sounds she cannot place at first. Then she understands. Crying. Whispering. Someone begging. A door opens ahead. The chamber inside looks wrong. Too clean. Too comfortable. Cushions line the walls. Low tables. Wine cups. Soft light. Only the chains break the illusion. Iron rings set into stone. Instruments laid out neatly on a table. This is not a place for work. This is a place for payment. A man waits inside. Middle-minus age. Well-fed. Well-dressed. He looks at Serena the way a buyer looks at goods. The new one, he says. The senator's run away. He smiles. I was told you were attractive. Serena stands still. The rules, she says. Her voice surprises her. It does not shake. The man laughs quietly. The rules? He repeats. There is only one. You survive the night. He steps closer. I pay extra for women who can be used again. What follows is exactly what Calpurnia warned her about. Not fast. Not careless. Deliberate. The man enjoys control. He enjoys explanation. He tells her what he is doing. Why he is doing it. What parts of her reaction please him most. He uses the instruments. He takes his time. Serena learns the first lesson. Her body can scream. Her mind does not have to stay. She leaves. Not physically. But somewhere inside, she steps away. She remembers Lucia's face. Her laugh. The way she slept with one hand curled into her hair. She holds that image like a shield. When it is over, she is barely standing. The guards drag her back. The corridor blurs. Her legs fail twice. She wakes on the pallet. Calpurnia is sitting upright. Alive, she says. That's the first victory. Serena nods. She cannot speak. Blood stains the stone floor beneath her. Calpurnia cleans what she can. This was the easy one, she says. Serena closes her eyes. Morning comes too soon. The bell rings before the pain fades. The women are marched out. The quarry waits behind the facility. A scar in the hillside. Dust hangs in the air. Hammers. Stone. Wait. Serena's muscles scream. Her hands blister. But she works. She watches. Which guards shout? Which ones don't? Who carries keys? Who avoids eye contact? She looks for Marcus. On the third day she sees him. Young. Focused. Not cruel. He corrects mistakes without hitting. When their eyes meet, something passes between them. Recognition. That night, there is a note under her palette. Small. Careful. Be patient. Be strong. You are seen. No name. Serena presses the paper to her chest. The nights continue. Each one worse than the last. Some men are bored. Some are inventive. Some are angry. Serena learns the second lesson. Distance. What happens to the body is not the self. The women who cannot separate do not last. Calpurnia teaches her how. Count breaths, she says. Name objects in your head. Go somewhere they can reach. The third lesson comes later. Purpose. You must want something more than rest, Calpurnia says. More than mercy. For me, it's my son. HES somewhere in Rome. I don't know where. But as long as I breathe, there is a chance. Serena nods. My daughter, she says. Lucia becomes the anchor. Weeks pass. Serena survives. She eats when she does not want to. She sleeps when she can. She watches everything. Marcus leaves more notes. Short. Careful. Transfer papers take time. I am working. Calpurnia understands before Serena says anything. He cannot save both of us, she says. Serena shakes her head. We'll go together. Calpurnia smiles gently. No, she says. My time is almost gone. Yours is not. You still have somewhere to go. The choice settles between them. Heavy. Unavoidable. On the final night, the worst client arrives. Marcus warned her. Survive, he said. Serena does. Barely. When dawn comes, she can still stand. The wagon arose. Grain sacks. Bribes paid. She is hidden beneath the load. The gates open. The facility disappears behind her. She does not look back. Rome smells different. Freedom smells like noise and dirt and possibility. Forged papers. A scarf over the brand. Then Ostia. A name. A villa. A merchant. A knife in her hand. The truth comes out. Lucia is alive. Sleeping. Small. Thing but alive. When the child wakes and sees her, the sound she makes breaks Serena completely. They leave that night. A ship at dawn. Marcellus. Years pass. Serena works as a scribe. Lucia grows. Calpurnia dies in the facility. Marcus dies too. The system moves on. But one child is free. One woman lived. And that matters. This is not the Rome of marble statues. This is the Rome beneath them. Remember it. Freedom does not arrive all at once. It comes in pieces. In breaths that no one interrupts. In nights without footsteps in the corridor. In mornings where the body wakes without fear of the bell. Serena learns this slowly. In Mass Ilia, no one knows her name. No one knows her brand. No one cares where she came from. That anonymity is safety. The first weeks are the hardest. Her body heals unevenly. Some wounds close. Others never do. Sleep is shallow. Dreams are not kind. Lucia wakes screaming some nights. Serena holds her until the shaking stops. They learn each other again. Mother and child. Not property and caretaker. Not survivor and reason. Just family. Serena works. At first, small jobs. Copying letters. Reading contracts aloud for merchants who cannot read well. Her education becomes currency. Ink replaces chains. Numbers replace commands. People trust her because she is precise. She learns quickly which questions not to answer. Where are you from? A long time ago, Italy. Why the mark? A mistake. Corrected. No one presses. Ports are full of stories worse than hers. Lucia grows. She learns letters early. She asks questions Serena cannot always answer. Why do some people look away? Why can't we go back to Rome? Why do you touch your forehead when you think? Serena answers what she can. Some truths are for later. Years pass. The empire moves on. New slaves replace the old ones. New runaways are caught. New brands are burned. The Laurentini facility continues. Someone else kneels in the courtyard. Someone else learns what special assignment means. History does not record their names. Serena never forgets Calpurnia. She tells Lucia about her, not all at once, not in detail. She tells her about a woman who was brave, about a woman who chose another child over herself. Why, Lucia asks once. Because some people decide, Serena says, that the world should be better than what they were given. Lucia remembers that. Marcus becomes a ghost in Serena's thoughts. She imagines his last moments. Interrogation. Silence. Punishment. He did not have to help. That is what haunts her most. He chose to. As Lucia grows older, Serena teaches her caution. Not fear. Awareness. Watch people, she says. Learn how systems work. Never assume rules are fair just because they exist. Lucia listens. She understands more than Serena expects. Rome never comes looking. Too much time passes. Too many records are lost. A branded woman who vanished becomes a problem no one wants to reopen. The system prefers for guessing. One evening years later, Lucia asks a question Serena dreads. Was I ever owned? Serena does not lie. Yes, she says. Lucia thinks quietly. And now? Now you're not. Lucian odds. That's what matters. Serena grows older. Her hair grays. Her hands ache. But she wakes free. Every morning. She never takes that for granted. This is what history does not teach. It teaches laws. Markets. Institutions. It does not teach what punishment looks like in practice. It does not teach the cost paid by women whose only crime was wanting their children. Roman slavery was not abstract. It was brands. Facilities. Chambers with cushions and chains. It was Calpurnia. Marcus. Serena. It was women who survived by eating when they wanted to starve. By separating mind from body. By holding on to one reason not to die. Most did not survive. That is the truth. Their names are gone. But the system remembers them. Because it was built on their destruction. Serena lived. Lucia lived. That does not erase the horror. But it proves something important. Even in systems designed to crush hope, hope sometimes survives anyway. Rome did not call places like the Laurentini facility a cruelty. It called them administration. This is important to understand. Because systems that survive do not describe themselves honestly. They use neutral words. Order. Discipline. Efficiency. Punishment was not framed as revenge. It was framed as maintenance. Runaway slaves were not treated as people who disobeyed. They were treated as problems that threatened stability. If one slave ran and survived, others might believe they could do the same. Belief was the danger. So Rome attacked belief. Not quietly. Not privately. Publicly. Permanently. The brand on Serena's forehead was not just a mark. It was a warning. Every slave who saw it understood the message. This is what happens if you try. The facility existed to finish that lesson. To make sure no one misunderstood it. Administrators like Quintus Civilis Ducius were not criminals. They were employees. They kept records. Balanced accounts. Reported productivity. They spoke of women in numbers. Number 47. Assignment complete. Mortality within expected range. Nothing emotional. Nothing personal. That is how brutality becomes routine. Rome depended on this distance. If citizens thought too closely about what maintained their comfort, the system would fracture. So the details were hidden. Facilities placed outside cities. Documentation vague. Language softened. Historians wrote about slavery as law, not as lived experience. This is why survivor stories are rare. Not because survival was impossible, but because survival was inconvenient. A woman who lived through punishment contradicted the narrative. She proved the system could be resisted. So her voice was excluded. Serena never wrote her story. She did not dare. A written record could be discovered. A confession couldn't do everything. Instead, she told it orally. To Lucia. Later to Lucia as children. Stories passed quietly. Safely. Never in public. Never in ink. Lucia grew into a woman who asked questions. About law. About power. About who benefits. She did not accept simple answers. Her mother had taught her otherwise. In Massilia, Serena sometimes saw new arrivals. Freed slaves. Runaways who almost made it. Some bore marks like hers. They never spoke openly. But when eyes met, understanding passed. A shared knowledge. Years later, when Lucia asked why Rome was admired, why people spoke of its order and greatness, Serena answered carefully. Rome was organized, she said. And it was ruthless. The two were not separate. The empire eventually fell. Not all at once. Not dramatically. It decayed. Systems grew too large, too rigid, too dependent on fear. The same tools that maintained control became weaknesses. But the punishment facilities disappeared long before the empire did. They were dismantled quietly. Records lost. Buildings repurposed. No monuments. No inscriptions. Rome did not want to remember. Yet the consequences remained. In trauma. In silence. In stories whispered rather than written. Serena lived to see Lucia as children. She never stopped touching the scar on her forehead, a habit she could not break. When asked why, she said simply, to remember what systems can do. When no one is watching, this is the part history leaves out. Not the law, not the economy, but the cost. The women who carried it in their bodies. Every system built on forced obedience faces the same problem. How do you stop people from running, when running is the most natural response to suffering? Rome's answer was simple. You don't just block escape. You poison the idea of it. For a slave, death was always present. Accidents, illness, overwork. Death was common, which meant death was not enough. If the punishment for escape was death, some slaves would still run, because death at the end of a choice is sometimes better than death without one. Rome understood this, so it created something worse. The punishment for running was not designed to end life quickly. It was designed to extend it, to stretch suffering over time, to make survival itself the punishment. Facilities like the Laurent and Ile Aber camp existed for this reason. Not to correct behavior, not to reform, to demonstrate consequences. Branding was only the beginning. The mark said, you tried. But the assignment said, you will regret it every day you remain alive. The message traveled faster than any law. Slaves talked. In kitchens. In fields. In whispered warnings at night. Don't run. Look what happens. Rome relied on rumor. It did not need to publish details. It only needed enough survivors to spread the fear, and enough deaths to confirm it. This is why Serena's survival was dangerous. Not just to the facility, to the system itself. A woman who endured the special assignment and lived proved something Rome could not allow to be proven. That escape was not always the worst outcome, which is why most survivors disappeared, transferred, silenced, killed quietly later. Survival was tolerated only when it could be erased. Serena escaped because too many things aligned. A god with conscience. A cellmate with nothing left to lose. A merchant who drew his own line. These were anomalies. Rome planned for averages, not exceptions. Most women never found a Marcus. Most never met a Calpurnia. Most died exactly on schedule. 3 weeks. For 6 at most. Their bodies returned to the earth. Without names. Without stories. This is what deterrence really looked like. Not chains. Not walls. But imagination. Rome wanted slaves to imagine the punishment and stop themselves. The facility did the rest. Serena understood this long after she was safe. When she saw a servant hesitate at a city gate. When she heard whispers about a runaway caught nearby. When she watched fear shut down possibility. Before it even formed, Lucia asked once, "Why didn't more people help you?" Serena answered honestly, "Because helping meant becoming visible, and visibility was dangerous." The system did not require everyone to be cruel. It only required enough people to do nothing. That was easier. That was safer. Rome's punishment structure worked. For centuries. That is the hardest truth. It worked because it was systematic. It worked because it broke hope early. It worked because it turned survival into suffering. And yet, it failed. Not completely. Not dramatically. But in small, quiet ways. In women who lived. In children who escaped. In stories passed mouth to mouth. Serena was one failure. Lucia was another. Each one insignificant alone. Together proof of a crack. Systems like Rome's do not collapse because of rebellion alone. They collapse because too many people remember. Too many people refuse to forget. Rome never relied on chains alone. Chains break. Walls crumble. Gods sleep. Fear does not. Fear walks into the mind and locks the door from the inside. That was Rome's real invention. Most slaves were never branded. Most never saw a punishment facility. Most never stood in a courtyard while hot iron burned into skin. They didn't need to. They had heard the stories. That was enough. A runaway did not need to be punished publicly. She only needed to be punished correctly. Her suffering had to be long, specific, describable, so others could picture it. In Roman households, fear moved quietly. A cook would whisper to a new servant, "Don't even think about it." A field hand would point to an old scar and say, "That came from trying." Children learn it early. Not from law, from tone. This is how the system trained obedience without force. It outsourced enforcement to imagination. Serena understood this years later in Mass Ilia. She noticed how former slaves spoke. Not loudly, not angrily, but cautiously. They planned their lives small. They avoided attention. They accepted unfairness quickly. They had learned the lesson Rome wanted them to learn. Freedom, even when achieved, carried residue. Fear does not vanish when chains fall. It lingers. Lucia grew up free in practice, if not on paper. She learned letters. She learned numbers. She learned to walk confidently through markets. But Serena watched her closely. Watched for signs. Flinching at authority. Lowering her eyes too quickly. Apologizing when she had done nothing wrong. Those habits were inherited. Not by blood, by proximity. So Serena taught her something else. She taught her how systems work. Not with bitterness. With clarity. She explained Rome honestly. Not as monsters, but as engineers. They built structures that rewarded silence and punished disruption. They did not need everyone to be cruel. They only needed most people to be afraid. Lucia asked once, "Were you brave?" Serena thought for a long time before answering. "No," she said. "I was desperate." And sometimes desperation looks like courage. This mattered, because Rome loved the myth of bravery. It praised heroism in men. Sacrifice in soldiers. It did not like desperation. Desperation exposed the system's pressure points. That is why stories like Serena's were not recorded. Not officially. They were dangerous. They showed that resistance did not always come with banners. Sometimes it came with endurance. With patience. With alliances formed in darkness. The Laurentini facility was eventually shut down. Not because it was cruel, but because it was inefficient. New systems replaced it. Different names. Different methods. The function stayed the same. Marcus was forgotten. No monument. No record. Calpurnia was never counted. No ledger track her sacrifice. But Lucia lived. And that mattered more than Rome could calculate. History remembers empires by what they build. Roads. Laws, temples. It rarely remembers what they require. The fear. The silence. The erased lives. But those things leave traces. In behavior. In culture. In inherited caution. Rome fell, not because slaves rose up everywhere, but because systems built on terror eventually hollow themselves out. They become rigid. They lose flexibility. They mistake obedience for loyalty. Serena lived long enough to see Rome change. Not improve. Just shift. She never returned. She never looked back. She did not need to. When she died, she left no monument. Only a daughter, who knew the cost of freedom, and refused to forget it. That is how systems fail. Not with fire, with memory. Rome wanted obedience, not loyalty. Silence, not belief. Fear, not agreement. It succeeded for a long time. But every system that survives on terror creates its own weakness. Because terror teaches people how to endure, and endurance teaches them how to wait. Serena did not destroy Rome. Neither did Marcus. Neither did Calpurnia. They simply proved something Rome could never erase. That even in systems built to make escape unthinkable, some people still imagine it. Some still attempt it. And some rarely survive it. History remembers empires by their power. But power is temporary. What lasts are the stories Rome tried not to record. The women who endured. The children who lived. The quiet defiance that never needed banners or armies. Remember them. Because civilizations are not undone by rebellion alone. They are undone when fear stops working. And that always begins with someone who refuses to disappear.